You can hear me now?
All right, good on you for being here. Yes, thank you, Lynette. And you can actually pop yourself on mute now if you like. You're a little bit in the dark there, but I can see your features. And welcome everyone to this presentation tonight. It's really a chat. That's why I call it the Menopause Lounge. So you grab your tea, you grab your wine, you grab your grape juice, whatever it is that you're on at the moment, and sit back in either a nice elegant lounge bar or a nice comfy lounge room. So whatever that is, whatever that works, however that works for you. As we have, I hope, a dialogue, a conversation about menopause, including weight. And it's not all just me presenting to you, but you get to get some answers to your questions. So I'd love to invite you to write into the chat something that you would like to get out of this presentation. You know, what made you, aside from curiosity or simple desperation maybe, I'd love to know what it is that had you jump on and book in for this session. And if you're listening to this recording, I just think about what it is that's going on for you right now and what answers you may come across this evening. And I've got the slides in this kind of non-presentation mode because then I can see you, I can see the chat, and I've got some notes a little bit later down the track which I may or may not want to share with you as well. So welcome to Midlife, Menopause and the Weight Journey. And just a little disclaimer, being a health professional, it's important for me to clarify the constraints that I'm under. I like to operate very professionally and with integrity. So even though I encourage DIY and encourage you to, take away some of these things and implement them yourself, we still need to be mindful that things that are not going right should be checked out, either by a doctor or a medical professional or a health professional like someone like me, who can refer you or deal with it as well. So sometimes we ignore things to our own detriment. So it is just a teaching session this evening actually. Reducing weight around the tummy, and Rania, weight gain and emotional sensitivity. Yeah, so our last one, this is a series, the M Word series, and our last one was on emotions, which I know you know about, Rania. Because menopause is such a huge area, and it's such a huge area, and you know, it's a physical journey. There's all that endocrine stuff going on. It's stressful, but then there's stuff going on in our lives as well. There might be teenage kids. There might be relationship challenges as you go through your midlife and he goes through his midlife, or she, as the case may be. Sometimes there's aging parents to look after. It's another responsibility on us. And often at this time of our lives where we're quite experienced in our work and in our careers, and there's a lot going on there, responsibility increasing. We want to start a business, or we want to study, or something like that. And so the pressures can be enormous. And so I've broken up this series into 4 segments. I could probably do 10, and I probably will. So this one is weight, we've done emotions, and the next one is sleep. So watch out for that. And I really wanted to start with kind of relating to you about one of the bigger things that I find people are looking for at the menopause time. And that is this this re-identifying themselves. So we kind of go through our 40s as a reproductive, attractive, even though older, attractive woman. And then we face, as we get closer to 50s and beyond, the very real situation of aging and wrinkles and so on. So it's super important that we transition through that and into that 50-year-old stage feeling valued and important and not invisible. So many women start to feel invisible. I mean, not even just at menopause. Many women feel invisible at other stages in their lives as well. And that's really, well, it's something that can be worked on actually. But certainly when we move into our 50s and the men don't kind of wolf whistle anymore, or we might look at ourselves in the mirror and not exactly like what we see. And so that can affect our expression. I find women really want to express all their life experience, their compassion, their heart opening. They've got this power opening up in their 50s, and that real strong desire for full self-expression comes through. And then, of course, as is part of that aging process, we start to move away from the material things and into more, let's call them spiritual concepts of finding joy and our fulfillment and what's going to make us happy and what's going to make us, what is going to feel rewarding and meaningful. And so even though I'm talking about weight and hot flushes and that kind of thing here, keep in mind that in the background is this other process, this other journey that's going on for us at this time. And, that's not commonly discussed in our society, in our culture. Everything to do with menopause is pretty much negative. And so I'm here to say that it isn't. The 50s, I'm in my 50s now and I'm having a ball. The things that I wanted to achieve earlier in my life that I never achieved are starting to manifest. I feel healthy. I've got a few health challenges, but they're kind of leading me in certain directions, which I'm finding amazing. And so, yes, it can be awesome, but it can be awful as well. All right, so just who am I? If you don't know me, I am a naturopath, long-term naturopath, worked mainly in corporate, love nutrition, and then what I'm really getting into these days is herbalism. And I mean, I'm qualified in herbalism, but at a whole nother level, with the bark flowers and the energetic medicines and essential oils and other things as well, which I find amazing. So I specialize in menopause. In 2005, I qualified as a life coach, which I like to bring into what I do because it facilitates change management. It's hard to change your diet. It's hard to get into exercise, especially when you've got blocks in the way. And so that's another area that is helpful, along with aromatherapy, yoga as well, particularly yin yoga. Yin yoga teaches us the art of surrender. And I find the feminine aspects, the feminine presence, the yin aspects are extremely powerful in this time of life, especially when we feel like our femininity is changing away from the beauty that we associate with women in our culture, which is basically a 25-year-old ideal woman. We're not that anymore. And so finding this new sensuality and femininity at 50 is amazing for facilitating the ease of this journey and this process. And yeah, a few other things there that I am qualified in or interested in. And then what we're covering today, we're just going to briefly define some terms. Then we're going to talk a little bit. I've got some research to show you around thyroid, gut health, insulin resistance, and a new thing that I've recently learned about, and that's something called lipedema. Some of the things we can do for ourselves, and then the 5 steps, some naturopathic concepts that I think you're really going to want to, you'll really appreciate being women. And I find the medical model often quite a masculine approach to well-being or to health, or to disease really. And then the naturopathic approach or perspective is softer and more about healing, more about gentle change, that kind of thing. And then I have a special gift for you at the end. So where I'm coming from, and I think where my message lands the best, if you're one of these women, then you're in the right place. And that's if you really want to feel energized and vivacious, whatever your weight, because it may not be that you get to 60 kilos. It may be that some of your weight is healthy weight and some of it is unhealthy weight, and you're looking to remove or release the unhealthy weight, and then the healthy weight is part of your genetics or part of your personality. And so coming to terms with that is very powerful as well. Having said that, a clear path, if you want clear path to achieving ideal weight, and I mean that really instead of quick fixes or a drug or cut it off or whatever. Also, I find myself really desiring this unwavering calmness, this unwavering stillness within me, and coming from that place when I'm communicating, when I'm doing that right now, so that I can connect with you, and that's a mindfulness, that's more yoga and another aspect of being magnetic and attractive as a woman, whatever your age. And then I've added to age disgracefully. Who wants to age gracefully? No one, not us anyway. To really, what I mean by that is to be who you want to be, warts and all, pink hair, bohemian clothing, different colored socks, whatever it is, you can be that. You can do that. And so that's really, really where I'm speaking from. What I'm not into, what you won't get from me, is the quick fix. So bang, 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 it's all fixed in a month. I'm sorry, you need to go to somebody else's webinar. I don't think that actually even exists. And if it does, it has huge costs, maybe in financial and maybe in pain and maybe in scarring or whatever it might be. Some of this information that I'll be talking about you already know, fantastic. But it's not about what you know. It's about applying what you know. It's not what you don't, it's what you do, right? And so if you know a lot about this already, I encourage you to think about my message in how to implement that in your life. Because it is not easy. Menopause is not easy for every woman. Menopause is an endocrine challenge and a hormonal challenge, not just reproductive hormones, stress, blood sugars, thyroid, everything. It's either, I was going to swear there. I won't swear. It's just it's really chaotic, or you kind of make it work. And that's what my goal is to help you with. You do need guidance. We all need guidance, and particularly through menopause, it's meant to be the sisterhood working with you. It is meant to be in traditional cultures. Women aren't meant to go through life on their own, and in our culture, we often do. We go through teens on our own. We often go through birth and pregnancy and menopause and death, and all these things are on their own. And the sisterhood way of doing it, the feminine female way of doing it, is in a collective in working. The older women help the younger women birth. The mothers assist the teenagers with their menarche. The wise women, the 80-year-olds, help us understand menopause. This is the way that it could be, and it is in many cultures, particularly cultures gone by. My story about weight has been fairly unfun. So I started my weight loss journey, or weight journey, really as a teen, and like I know a lot of women, I started dieting, and I'm actually writing my story at the moment and getting to the bottom of it, and it's really quite emotional. And one of the things that opened up for me from that is this desire to be invisible, and not really wanting to be female, wanting to be more masculine and achieving things, and not stuck at home in the kitchen or having babies or any of those things. And that started my journey with binging eating disorder, and a constant throughout my life desire to on the one hand stuff my face with comfort food, and on the other hand lose weight. And I have to say, I have learned everything that I know from this journey, this weight journey. And so I don't regret it at all. It's taken me on some wild paths and really led me into being a naturopath and life coach and all the healing and personal development work that I've done. So I don't regret it. I kind of wish it hadn't needed to happen, because there's been years of no joy, especially my teens and 20s, just like blink of an eye and that was gone. I was all tied up in weight issues, really. But recently, especially since my menopause, my cessation of my period and moving into this wise and wild woman, it's been actually quite lovely to not worry about it anymore, and to start to work on it in a different way. It's more about feeling great and cleansing and taking action and doing it anyway, and finding the fashion styles that work for my body. And I'm following Trini at the moment, for any of you who know Trini, and learning how to dress for my body shape. And I still look at my belly and my thighs and think, what can I do about that? But it's far less emotional. I'm going to just check in with you guys before we go into what is perimenopause and so on. Just got a nice crowd on here this evening. And I would just like to ask you, I want to go into my presentation mode. So just while I've got my cursor, I'd love to see any comments that you might have about what you've just heard, anything you can relate to, any questions, any other, I've asked people at the beginning to pop in the chat why they decided to come onto this call today. So if you could type that in, and just so I know that you're out there as well. Love to hear just a little bit of feedback for me on, especially some of the intangible things that I'm talking about. Is there anything that you can relate to, or that you've experienced yourself on your journey? And I know there's a little bit of a lag, so go ahead and type in for me something that you connected with in the first little 20 minutes of what we've been talking about. Come on, I dare you. Here they come. I know they're a little, all right. Okay, great. So finding out about what's coming up for you, fantastic. Oh, that's just such a great idea. The getting informed is really fantastic. And feeling isolated, oh yes, oh yes. I mean, who talks about menopause? I mean, I've specialized in menopause, and most women are in denial about it. It's like, don't want to know until, it hits you, and then you're not prepared. So that's fantastic that you're wanting to get some idea about, what you need to do, and you will feel less isolated, especially if you can connect with other women through this as well. Interested in understanding perimenopause and strategies to support improved health and well-being. Certainly connect with the idea of more self-love. Yeah, 100%. Weight has always been a problem. Had a hysterectomy and am the heaviest after that. Yes, 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 yes. Well, that if they took your ovaries as well, that would have put you into instant menopause. And how old are you? Just curious how old you are. Oh, 44. Okay, yeah. So that's a little bit earlier. With natural menopause, which we're going to talk about right now, with natural menopause, you go into it gradually, right? And your body, even though it might get some symptoms, it has a little bit of time to adapt. Needing to be kinder. Oh my gosh, I just find that with practically every woman on the planet. So I'm going to pop you guys up there, and pop the chat there, and then I'm going to put you into, oh gosh, I've got a tiny little screen, so it does make it a little tricky sometimes. Here we go, put you up there. All right. So perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Some of you might know this already, but I thought I'd just explain it. So perimenopause, peri means around, like a periscope. And, oh, one more comment. Yeah, going through 60, going through menopause, 10 years. Oh gosh, my hips have expanded. I admit, very lazy, lose a bit of weight, motivation is needed. Yeah, that's just about every person who comes to see me is in the similar position. So thank you for sharing. That's wonderful. So menopause can last 10 years, or we call it perimenopause. But that's usually the 10 years leading up to the cessation of your periods, which can sound like a long time, but I know for a lot of women in their early 40s, they start to get lighter periods and, some emotional changes. And so that's really the beginning of it. Others doesn't happen till you're 45, and this just little changes you start to notice. That's what we call perimenopause. And it's got its own collection of symptoms. And then menopause is actually really just one day. It's the day 1 year after our last period. That's officially menopause, when your periods have stopped. It's been 1 year and you haven't had another one. And then after that, you're in postmenopause. And postmenopause is a whole stack of other symptoms. It's a different thing. So I was going to give you a quick analogy, but it's like you're going to climb Mount Everest, and perimenopause is all your preparation and training and buying all the things that you need and everything leading up to it. And then menopause is kind of arriving, and then postmenopause is really the trip up the hill or up the mountain and all that stuff. And it's kind of all part of the same package, but there's different phases. And so some of this you'll relate to if you're menopausal, postmenopausal, and you may not relate to others because you're in a different stage. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of sciencey stuff here and show you some research and explain some concepts as I'm doing it. So if you get a little confused, please pop in the chat any questions and I'll answer them as I'm going along. So here's a quote from the Medical News today, and that is, one form of estrogen called estradiol decreases at menopause, and this hormone regulates our metabolism. Lower levels lead to weight gain. Now that sounds like it's a condition, like a disease condition or a dis-ease condition, like it's not supposed to happen. But in fact, menopause, our estradiol is meant to decline. It goes down. And what we know about estradiol and estrogen at menopause, and what we know about the reproductive action, reproductive cycle, is that it uses up more energy than when we don't have it. So what I mean by that is that your basal metabolic rate declines once you're no longer cycling. And so even to maintain your weight, you have to eat less. So this reminds me of, some of my clients who, they get into their 40s. One particular lady I'm thinking of, she came to see me. She had put on a little bit of weight every year since around about a year or two before, her period ceasing completely. And literally her metabolism is naturally declining. It's just less energy required by the body. And she was desperate. She was desperate to lose the weight quickly. And we didn't really get on because she wanted it done by Christmas, which was probably 3 weeks away. She wanted that quick fix. And, that it comes off. You have your Christmas period, and then it all comes back on again. So what's the point? And anyway, I talked to her about this, and she wasn't really wanting to change yet. Anyway, I mean, it's personal choice, right? So I helped her as much as I could, and then she went on her own path. So that's the first thing we need to know, that the natural process of menopause leads us to a lower metabolic state where we have to eat less to stay the same. So if you stopped menstruating and then you put a little bit of weight on, a little bit of weight on, a little bit of weight on, it's because every day you're eating a little bit more than you need. And that's not any dysfunction or disease or condition or anything like that. That's just the way it is. And then we have menopause, weight, and thyroid. Now you can see from this table, lots of the symptoms of thyroid get blamed on menopause. And there is a connection, because they're both, the thyroid and the adrenals and the ovaries are all part of the endocrine system. And when you are going through menopause, it's very stressful, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And that has an impact on the whole system, including the thyroid. So it is kind of menopause and the thyroid, but some of the symptoms are directly related to our thyroid hormone and not our estrogen. And some of those things you can see there on the right side: constipation, changes in the menstrual cycle, moodiness, forgetfulness, depression, weight changes. We think that might be menopause, but it's actually thyroid. So one of the things that I often do for clients is check their thyroid function. I'll get them to get their doctor to test it so that it's managed by a GP or a GP, at least to get the TSH. Sometimes I want more. I want the T3 and the T4 and the antibodies as well, because TSH can be normal. We want more information than that. But the doctors are guided by the government to only request the rest of the thyroid tests if the TSH is out of range. And the range is quite large. So sometimes I'll just request that test through a pathology lab myself. And that can give very helpful information. So the thyroid gland is unrecognized thyroid problems can lead to, and some of these are often considered the risk factors postmenopausally as well. It's interesting to know that some of it relates back not to estrogen again, but to thyroid. And that's, cardiovascular issues, thyroid, bone fractures, thyroid, cognitive impairment, depression, and mortality. And that's an article from the Menopause Review, which I think was a Russian or Polish journal. From the link there is in the bottom. And so I had someone recently who was concerned about bone fractures, and there's supposed to be a family history, family connection, and she was on a low fat, sort of low carb diet, and that's pretty disastrous for bone health, because you need vitamin D, of course, at least vitamin D and lots of minerals for bone health. And if you have a low-fat diet, then you're probably deficient in vitamins A and D, because they are fat-soluble vitamins and found in fats, particularly animal fats. So butter is a really great thing, ghee, and so on. All right, let's look at our next one. The gut connection. Huge and growing body of research to indicate that the microbiome, which is all the bugs in your tummy, when your gut, is a causal factor and not simply a consequence of autoimmune disease. This came from the Health Frontiers in Microbiology, and is a study around gut microbes and autoimmune disease. Now, the prevalence of autoimmune disease increases quite a lot. Some of the autoimmune diseases, others actually decline. But things like rheumatoid arthritis and those ones that create pain in the body are directly now, we know, correlated with gut health. And most people out there, I don't know what the statistics are anymore, I'd say it's up around 80% of people have gut issues. It might be constipation, something simple like that, but it might be burping or reflux or indigestion, flatulence or bloating or undigested food in the stool or polyps, diverticular. All these kinds of things indicate a gut issue, and you have to get the gut right first, and then the rest falls into place. And it's not easy. It's not easy to get the gut right. But with the right things, it turns around quite quickly and quite easily. I've had it's not a menopausal client, it was a man come to see me, and really just implementing a little bit more protein. He wasn't eating properly, a little bit more protein in his diet and some bone broths, and his gut, with some supplements, of course, his gut was 100% better, and his brain function was 100% better, because they're connected as well. Here's just something that's come up in the research now. People are doing what we call fecal transplants, but there's evidence to support the theory that your weight is related to your microbiome. So you can alter your microbiome. So the microbiome, the microbes in the gut of a slim person are very different to the microbes in the gut of an obese person. And I think they've done this study on mice, if you put those microbes from the obese mouse into a non-obese mouse, the mouse becomes obese. So this is all really cutting edge research, but there's real indication that, we know from the, thousands of years ago that gut is the starting place for health and well-being, and that goes for weight in particular. Did I have an example of that to share with you? Not really. Let's move on. So weight, menopause, and insulin resistance. So talking about weight around the middle, the two things that contribute to weight around the middle, two key things, are cortisol, the stress response, because it puts you into famine mode, and the effect of cortisol on the body is to raise blood sugars. It has these things called glucocorticoids. They look after glucose. That's why they're called glucocorticoids in the body. And things like drinking coffee increases your glucocorticoids or increases your blood sugars. And so weight around the middle is pretty much related to blood sugars one way or another. And that can be through cortisol, or it can be through insulin resistance, which really comes back to two things in the diet. And it's very common in the Western diet, and that is processed sugar, refined sugar. Refined carbohydrates are pretty much the same thing as refined sugar. So that's white flour, sugar, fructose corn syrup, not fructose from fruit so much, and all the forms of processed isolated sugar. And then the other one that affects insulin resistance as well is fats. Vegetable oils like rice bran oil, sunflower seed oil, corn oil, cottonseed oil, safflower, all those cheap industrialized oils are extremely inflammatory and dangerous to our bodies. And so if you have weight around the middle, I would eliminate processed sugar, processed carbs like white flour as well, as much as you can. And I would certainly eliminate vegetable oils and swap them out for real fats. If you're not sure what that is, please write me a question. Sorry, I can't turn off my dings. Here's another study. Hot flushes are associated with insulin resistance in postmenopausal women. So it suggests that hot flush association with insulin resistance is dependent on the combination of leptin and adiponectin variables. What that means is that our fat secretes hormones. We know that. We know they have their own capacity to increase our hormone levels, not in a good way. And that is a contributor to hot flushes. Now, we don't think about that typically. We don't really remember that that's the case. We think it's all estrogen, and it's not. So once again, it's another reason to get those sugars out of the diet as much as possible. Every little bit of sugar counts, and you've got to look on the labels because it's in a lot of things as well. I know for a long time I loved soy milk, but it contains vegetable oil and sugar, a form of sugar, some kind of ose, maltose maybe, and that has its effect on weight around the middle. And I think my genetics, my parents both sort of apple-shaped, so there's limitations to what is possible, but sugar doesn't help. And this is my own experience. So I have recently, I've been studying the GAPS diet and looking at diets that support really good gut health. And so I have, with a few other things, help of some herbs and other things, I have recently taken out starchy carbs and all sugars. So I was having some sugar in the form of chocolate after dinner and that kind of thing. So I've eliminated all of that. And I have to say, it's been quite amazing. Not only I've dropped some kilos quite quickly, but I feel, you know how you have that kind of puffy feeling or fluidy feeling? I feel like I've peed out a lot more fluid. So I feel more compact and little than I have in a long time. So not over yet. Watch this space, still going. I'm using myself as the guinea pig. And yes, let's face it, cutting out carbs, starchy carbs and sugar isn't easy. But even if you just start on that process, it can be very helpful. Now, this final one I want to talk to you about is something I've recently found out about, and that is lipedema. You might have heard of lymphedema. Lymphedema is like that elephantitis where the one leg looks like an elephant leg, and that's because sometimes there's surgery, the lymph nodes have been taken out, or a parasite has got into the person. Lipedema is an accumulation of lipids or fats under the skin, and it's considered to be an autoimmune disease. It's correlated with a lot of inflammation in the body and inflammation in the gut. And if you just look here, this kind of explains it. It's thought to affect 10% of the female population worldwide. That's massive. And we didn't even know about it. So it's characterized by adipocyte, which means fat cells, hypertrophy, which means enlargement. So the fat cells enlarge, they become very tender and painful. That's why it's called painful fat syndrome. And they don't respond to any kind of weight loss. You know, they can be eating, these people can be eating like nothing and not lose any weight. It's very much correlated with the Western lifestyle and toxicity and gut health. Doctors might not say that. They're not the ones who are less well informed about lifestyle medicine may not, they might promote other techniques like liposuction to get rid of it, but it's highly unsuccessful and very difficult to treat this condition. And I have to say, I haven't had any clients with this yet, but I am learning about it so that when someone presents, I'll be able to support them. And how that looks, if you look at these pictures here, that's a relief to get off the research pages and into some pictures. So you can see this is the varying degrees. It's got 4 stages. You can see on the left side of the left image that there, you know, it looks like just being a little bit overweight. And then if you look to the very right-hand side, you'll see this at stage 4. And it's characterized by a little bit of a ledge over the knees. You can see that on the ones just facing away from you, particularly the bigger ladies, there's a little bit of a ledge that happens on the knees and it starts to kind of accumulate there. It's usually only on the lower half of the body for some strange reason. And it's extremely difficult to get rid of. And I think the combination of a really super clean diet, anti-inflammatory and other nutrients, anti-inflammatory herbs and nutrients, correcting all the deficiencies associated with fats, really getting gut health working properly, and mechanical massage, you know, deep tissue work, which would start off extremely painful. So you'd have to work very gently, I think. Combination of those kinds of things, and it would start to make a difference. But it's slow. The webinar that I watched on it by a doctor from the US, you know, it's you're looking at 6, 12, 18, 24 months of pretty clean, strict programs. All right, so let's have a look. Now's a good time to add any. Let me just come back here so I can see in the chat anything that you want to comment on, any like ahas or wow, I didn't know that, or yes, that's me. Please pop that in the chat, and we're going to run out of time soon, so I'm going to keep going, but please do feel free to either share it with the group or share it with me privately. You've got that option down there near the text box, so that I can answer your questions. I'm really keen to help you out. All right, so let's get into solutions. And this is really a simplistic way of looking at it. I'm trying to give you more perspectives than specific treatments, because that's very dependent on the individual. As you can tell, this is very complex. So I'm going to give you kind of 5 steps in increasing interventionist kind of approaches. So the first step is to do nothing. One of the beautiful books that I have somewhere here, actually, I have this beautiful book by this lady, Susan Weed, who's a fantastic herbalist, and it's called The New Menopausal Years, The Wise Woman Way. And some of my quotes are from her. She's amazing. And she says the best ally you can have on your menopausal journey is 10 extra pounds. And adding a little bit of weight, and you're talking about sort of 2 to 5 kilos, going on very slowly and gently, is healthy weight gain in postmenopause. And it really, what we know from that is that it protects you, that little bit of extra weight, healthy weight, protects you from, the research has shown, from depression, hot flushes, and osteoporosis. And so I like to encourage, healthy consumption of really good quality fats. And I think one of the best ones is butter. Butter and a form of butter called ghee. Some of you will know about ghee. Ghee is clarified butter and it has no lactose in it. So if you've got any kind of lactose issues, ghee should be fine. And this butter and ghee are amazingly rich in good quality fatty acids and some A and D. And it's, chuck that margarine out and get going on some good quality butter. Melt it on your veggies, pop it on I had it this morning, I made yesterday actually, almond meal pancakes, and I lathered it up with some butter. It's good for your skin, it helps keep you moist, and it helps you, fats help you absorb the nutrients from the rest of your meal, and so many things. Rest well, so especially for the type A's, bringing in some yin, even yin yoga, but the yin qualities of rest and relaxation and letting go, that's super important at this time of year. So finding a way to do that, even though it might be the hardest thing for you to do. The next step is another step. So there's a kind of do nothing or not very much. The next one is to nourish and tonify. And that is the realm of herbal medicine, nutritional medicine. Go very gently. You don't need a lot, small doses, that kind of thing. Eating what I call a peasant style whole foods diet, and including your fats. Number 1, olive oil, butter, flax seeds, extra virgin olive oil, fantastic. Extra virgin olive oil is fantastic it's not meant to be heated. I know we use olive oil for cooking, but we shouldn't really. Butter is for cooking, or ghee is even better because it doesn't burn. So if you're making fish, you'd use butter. If you're cooking some fried eggs, maybe you'd use butter. Butter melts beautifully over vegetables, but then so does olive oil. So olive oil is great when you need a liquid. So for salad dressings or just pouring over some whole grain sourdough bread or something like that. Mineral rich foods, absolutely crucial. Cooking in a way that restores and retains minerals is important. Some comforting grains like oats. If you're okay with carbs, some of the carbs, and don't have too much of them, they're great. And the beneficial effects and medicinal effects of herbs and spices are really important. Herbal teas, sage, for example, is great for hot flushes and night sweats. Lemon balm is very calming to the nervous system. Chamomile helps with all the gut stuff that goes on. Hops is gently estrogenic, so it can help with menopausal symptoms, but also very calming. So some of these things are super, super fabulous. And I like to give people not just a herbal mix and supplements, but some of these additional home remedies, if you like, that can be really part of a healthy lifestyle. The next step is to stimulate or sedate. Rooibos tea is amazing. Yeah, rooibos is actually very good. It's not a caffeinated beverage, and reminds me of South Africa. I've got an affection for South Africa. So avoid weight loss herbs, nutrients, shakes, and anything that's too stimulating. It really is an old mindset of, I've got to punish myself to lose weight. And the kindness approach is far more effective. And we want to kind of bring back healthy functioning of everything as much as possible. The ovaries, everything. So exercise, I go for my walk in the morning and I see these women at 6 a.m. flogging themselves out with this doof music. And I think, oh my gosh, maybe at 25 it was okay. But at 45 and older, it's not right for us anymore. We want to move and we want to be active and we want to keep the circulation going, but we want it in a way that doesn't really challenge the joints and stress out the adrenals and that kind of thing. So 5 minutes multiple times during the day is way better. I am recording. Did I press record? Yes, I am recording. So you'll get that tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow I'll send it out with some notes. Lifting weights is a good idea, and it could be a couple of cans of spaghetti, but not that you're going to eat that spaghetti, but just a couple of cans of chickpeas or something when you're going for your walk. Or I'm actually about to buy myself a little mini trampoline. I put a bid on one on Gumtree and I don't think they've gotten back to me yet, but you could be just lifting. This is not a very heavy book, but in between the webinars that you got to do or whatever it is, you can do something and help with the toning in your arms and keep your muscles strong. That keeps your metabolism going nicely as well. And yeah, there's little tips and hints for managing sugar cravings. Herbal tonics are I love. I always take them myself. I'm actually drinking at the moment, this is not a herbal tonic, it's a tea, but I'm drinking a licorice, fennel and peppermint tea. And licorice and fennel are fantastic for blood sugar management and the adrenal support. And then to get them at a stronger dose, I can put them into a liquid concentrate for you and prescribe that. If you came to see me, I could do that. Drugs, of course, are always an option. And there's a time and place for drugs, and I don't shame anyone for taking them. I do think that they're sort of a late resort, not a last resort, but a late resort. Usually I find people resort to drugs when they haven't found anything natural that works for them, and often they've tried to self-medicate with natural things and have done the wrong thing. So if you have an issue with your thyroid and you take an estrogenic herb, it's not going to work for your hot flushes. So if we could get more people to a naturopath or a herbalist or a nutritionist who's a naturopathic nutritionist, I think women would be much better informed and supported about natural remedies for their weight or for their thyroid or for their hot flushes. But unfortunately, well, you have to pay. Medicare doesn't cover us, unfortunately. So if there's a bit of a financial issue, it can be difficult, but it's really such a good investment. Short-term investment for a long-term plan that you can work on. Avoid appetite suppressants. This is a little mantra that I used when I was studying. First, the word, so talking and do nothing and counselling and listening, all that beautiful stuff that us ladies do in our sisterhood. Then the herb, then the drug, then the surgery, in that order. We don't go bang, in for, cut it out. If in doubt, cut it out. That's like your last resort, which is number 5, step 5, break and enter. That's what she calls it in that book. And here are some of the options that people resort to: liposuction, fat freezing, plastic surgery, injections like Botox and so on, stomach stapling, banding, organ removal, take the gallbladder out, take the thyroid out, take whatever out, and so on. And as I said, nothing wrong with that, but last resort, if possible, because once it's out, it's gone. And, liposuction can damage some of the lymph area, the connective tissue. So it sounds like an easy thing to do, and sometimes it works really well and it's really great, but often it doesn't. So let me take the last few minutes tonight to show you the naturopathic approach. I think you'll be interested in this because having a naturopath on your team, I think, is a success strategy for life. And yes, it's a little bit of an investment to start off with because you've got a few appointments for the case history and the testing and the initial planning stages. But then after that, you've got a resource. You've got a constant resource to support you. It's like climbing up the Himalayas, which I've done. I've gone up to the Himalayas, and you have the porters who carry all your stuff. You have the team leader, and you have the Sherpas who know the way, taking you the route that is going to get you up there. So we always need a guide. So the key areas that a naturopath will work on: nutrition, movement, mindfulness, and medicine. And I'm not going to go through all of those, but basically it's reviewing all of those things, where you're currently at, what's working, what's not working, doing the testing to get the extra information about, is it your thyroid, is it your gut, is it whatever. I do live blood analysis here in the clinic, not to diagnose, but to just see what your body is telling us and what may be required in the testing as well. And then setting some goals about improvements and working with you on that, not going, here, gluten-free, you've got to do gluten-free. It's like working with you to set up a plan for all of these areas with some incremental changes so that you get little win, little win, little win, little win. Yes, it's slower. It's not a quick fix, but it gets you great results. Appointments required 3 to 10, depending on what it is, which is roughly sort of minimum 3 months. You've got to give your naturopath a chance to understand what's going on for you and for you to implement some things and for things to take a little while to work. So minimum 3 months, 12 months, and then ongoing as a resource to fall back on. How it works: first appointment is really finding out about you, the case history, identify the problem, kind of the current status quo. All of the stuff that's come up from the past, all of that means something. Maybe you've had gut issues ever since you went to Bali. Or maybe, you're in a relationship that was a little bit not great and it stressed you out, and ever since then you've had anxiety. Things like that are important for us to incorporate into your strategy, because that helps us understand, what do we need to work on first? No point working on your diet if your nervous system is shot because you're anxious all the time. So second appointment is the sort of gathering the information. In clinic testing, I do a long in-clinic testing appointment here. It might be live blood, it might be the iris. It depends on whether your consultation is online or face-to-face, which I do both. But obviously I can't evaluate your blood and look at your blood if you're in Darwin or something. Then we go to appointment 3, which is bringing all the information together from the case history and the testing results and creating a plan for you. Step 1, we need to do this. And then when that's kind of sorted out, we'll review and then we'll do the next step so that we're not doing everything all together. And then The appointments after that are just the implementation, follow-up, accountability, questions, education, all that kind of stuff going on. And yes, of course, since COVID, everything's now online, and I've shifted so that I can offer online, either all of it online, or for some people that may be a bit far away, maybe they can get here for the testing appointment, but the rest of them they prefer online, or for other reasons they're stuck at home and need to look after kids or something, and just scoot off into a spare room for a while and have their appointment. So online works quite well. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell how I work with people, how naturopaths work with people, so you have a sense of it. I often also refer to other workers, it might be body workers or acupuncture or other things that support this process as well, so that you can go from zero energy, which is just about everyone that comes in the door, that memory, stressed, overwhelmed, in pain, like, what should I do? You're confused. Should I take HRT? Should I do what the doctor said? Should I all of that kind of upset that goes along with this very poorly understood phase of life, and that's menopause. And then, of course, what's going on for you in that whole process as you transition from a reproductive woman to a wild woman, a wise woman eventually. You're going through a rite of passage, which is a whole other journey itself. And that can be very disconcerting, very isolating and overwhelming when you kind of go from this ending into kind of like, who am I? What do I want? How come I'm so angry? Into, finding yourself as a powerful woman in your 50s. And you can have that. You can be comfortable in your skin and not care so much about what everyone else thinks, but really more empowered to implement some of the changes as well. You're more, because you've got this oomphy anger coming through you, which isn't an accident. It's your self trying to express itself. And that can help you find your self-care and your self-kindness and your me time. And now it's my turn kind of thing that opens up at this time, if you understand what's going on through the process. And then being excited, totally excited about what opens up in your 50s. Oh my gosh, it's great. You might want to study or travel or start a business, or all kinds of things are possible. 50s is the best decade of your life, I swear to you. It's fantastic. And maybe 60s are better, but I haven't been there yet. How do you go from that to that? How do you get there? And your health can be the catalyst. Working on the basics. Your health is telling you, you need to do this and you need to do that, and you need to eat better and you need to exercise and you need to stop doing that. And so your health and working with somebody on your health can be that bridge to that empowered woman that you would really like to be. Empowered and so gentle and kind and feminine and all of that stuff. All right, wonderful. So thank you for listening. Thank you for still being here. I do have a little special gift for you, and that is to offer you a complimentary half-an-hour session just to chat with me about where you're at and what you've done already and what your key problems are. So I can give you some resources, at least one that's going to help you. And then, you can check me out. I can check you out. And if we'd like to work together, or you'd like to work on your stuff and you'd like to do that with me, then we can start. It's an option. There is no pressure, but that opportunity is there to get all your questions answered. So, is boxer size okay? That's a question I think you've got to check in with yourself. I think sometimes boxing can be really great for emotional release. So yeah, that's hard to answer, Yemi, but I wouldn't do it 5 times a week. I balance it out with some yin yoga or something a little bit slower, tai chi or walking or something like that. I don't think any of that really hard exercise should be done too many times in the week. It can really stress the body out and raise cortisol levels. So, okay, I'm going to say thank you. And there's my email address. You probably already have it, this one or my other one, from the emails that have been sent to you through Eventbrite for our webinar. But would love for you, by way of summing up here, I will give you a follow-up email tomorrow with that ticket, that free ticket for your half-an-hour session, which you can take me up on, or you can pop into the chat a why, and I'll follow up with you. Why for yes. But I'd love you to pop in the chat what one thing that you've learned, what's a takeaway from tonight? Some aha, or I'm going to stop share, an aha or a wow, I didn't know that, or something you'd like to, that's a summary of something you've learned today, where we've talked about all those research results that were about the thyroid and obesity and microbiome and the gut, and of course the lipedema, not lipidemia, that's another thing altogether. This is lipedema. Thank you. And yeah, so yeah, give me your feedback. What did you learn tonight? I would love, yeah, about the fats. Yeah. Butter and ghee are great. Yes, yes, yes. Get rid of the margarine, ladies. All those hydrogenated fats, they are making you fat. Thank you, Sunita. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Diet, food tips were helpful. Butter and ghee. Yeah, so there's more to it, of course. Other animal fats like goose fat and duck fat and tallow and others are also very beneficial, even though they've been ostracized from our what's supposedly healthy. It's all rubbish, basically. Butter and ghee, amazing. And gentle exercise. You do not need to flog yourself at this time of life. Yeah, not whipping yourself into a frenzy. No, you know, I see those ladies out there on the asphalt doing the boot camp or whatever it is. Oh my goodness. And you know, you can get a little bit of a high from it. There's nothing wrong with a good sweat. But if you're trying to lose weight, just that on its own, without the whole kind of package, which is a bit of balance of yin and yang and hard and soft and all that kind of thing, it can be very frustrating. So lovely, lovely ladies. Thank you for being on. Thank you for still being here all the way at the end. Based in the UK, fantastic. I do UK appointments, so happy to be international. It's just a matter of finding the time, which can be a bit tricky at the end of the day or the beginning of the day. Amazing, thank you. You've really looking forward to the recording. Yes, I'll send that. Amazing advice, love the visual. Thank you. I spent quite a bit of time on those beautiful slides. Aren't they gorgeous? Thank you so much, ladies. Loved your company, and we will be in touch via email very soon. So thank you. And I'm just going to stay on for a little while and drink my cup of tea. So if you want to hang around and unmute yourself, I would be happy to chat. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Yemi. Thanks, Rania. I will be in touch. Yeah, off to work now. Yes, it's the beginning of the day in England, so, or UK, wherever you are. Yemi, off you go. Thank you for being here. Lovely to meet you. And Lynette, is Sharon related to you? I just lip read because you're muted, but I think I heard what you said. She's your sister, right? Oh, I'm going to stop the recording. Let's stop the recording.